All right.
My name's Dr. Corey Throckmorton. I currently serve as principal at Concord High School here in Arkansas, Concord, Arkansas. For the past 10 years prior to this year, I served as a principal slash director at the alternative school. We called it New Start Academy in Wynne Public Schools. Prior to that, I was 10 years in the West Memphis School District. During my time at Wynne, I had a chance to become a pilot school for the HeartBridge program, HeartBridge Collective program, and through a chance meeting with Bill Vining at one of our summer conferences for alternative educators, we began a relationship to incorporate this curriculum and program into our school. When we started, quite honestly, Bill was just starting too, and we were trying to take what had been born out of his Hot Springs Community School and trying to take that information and use it to impact students across the state. And in its infancy, there were lots of bugs, lots of hiccups, lots of hurdles. And through the first year or so, we started to iron out some of those things. I began to use it as a digital platform, utilizing the Google Suites program, Google Classroom. And from there, it really began to take off. The program has never been one that we felt is fully complete. It's always a work in progress. What's been beautiful about the utilization of this over those years has been the fact that input comes from the educators. I was able to take the information and modify it in such a way that it was applicable to my situation, my students individually. So we were able to really differentiate the instruction with regards to this particular subject matter, a subject matter in our state that may be the most crucial, in my opinion. After doing my dissertation about placement characteristics for alternative education and understanding why students are being placed and how those programs are being utilized, it's very eye-opening to be reminded that our state is one of the top in the nation for adverse childhood experiences and trauma. It's very important for us to recognize that not only do we lead in some of the really bad categories, we're at the bottom in the best categories. We're still not performing well academically. And it's been my experience that through this program and instituting the 5 tenets of social emotional learning around the way that this has been designed has positively impacted students individually in their growth and academic performance, but also their behavioral and social performance. We have seen students go from being quitters to having grit, and quitters to gritters. I've seen students grow from being at a loss to being leaders. And one of my favorite stories is we had a young lady who had been caught up in lots of social activity, street gang activity, and other things in Wynne, came to our program from the high school, was placed there, was with us for 8 short months. And at the end of that, and after going through this program and the way that we have had a chance to love her, she graduated on a Friday night and Monday morning started as a bank teller in town. And since then is still in a career in finance and is flourishing as a result of just being redeemed from those situations, but then also learning what it means to be mindful, understanding self-control and where emotions come from and how to be compassionate and what empathy is all about and how it's different than sympathy and all of these key components to the program. Maybe not most importantly, but very important to note, it's made me a better person. It's made me a better educator. It's transformed the relationship between staff and students for everybody that participates in this particular program. It's amazing to know that any school, any size, can take the information that's been carefully vetted over 8 to 10 years at this point, take that information, make it their own, but still with fidelity teach those important components of social emotional learning and utilize those what we used to consider soft skills and utilize those real important bridges to fill the gaps for our students to really impact not only their behavior, not only their social performance, but also academically, because the more mindful we are about our habits, the more mindful we are about how we're thinking and how we're feeling, the easier it is to navigate some of those situations, to prioritize and be responsible in our decision making. So I fully believe, I'm very passionate about the work of the HeartBridge team, HeartBridge Collective, and have been very honored in my role there, but would encourage any legislator, any superintendent, any co-op director, anybody that's in charge of anything, a principal, hey, just a teacher that's looking for something else to pour into her students. This is not something that should be mandated as additional. This should be something that should be woven in to the curriculum in such a way that it positively impacts our kids and therefore our state. We dealt with acute mental health.
Okay.
We dealt with students with all different types of characteristics for placement in our program. Acute mental health issues, students who may have had thoughts of self-harm and suicide, being able to have some common language and having a resource to speak with confidence on these issues, and how to help the student to see how maybe they weren't on an island all by themselves, but this was actually something that is unfortunately pretty common in society, and there are steps and ways that we can battle that ideation, those thoughts, and that there is hope, and there's always hope in commonality. There's hope in a community, and so being able to provide anchor points for common language, just mindfulness alone as a common language and a growth mindset, and being able to take what we understand, if we say those words, to take those and have students begin to understand that actually I can think about how I'm thinking, and that impacts my future thinking. And so I can think about how I'm feeling and be able to control those emotions so that they're not controlling me. And not only students that, of course, I was dealing with secondary students in the high school, but I also saw this program implemented at the alternative schools in elementary schools, and just the idea of mindfulness alone, and some of the application of mindful meditation, and some of the applications of so what now what, so what, I've got this information and I feel this certain kind of way, so what's next? So what now, what can I do with this information? And it's really important. Once again, I maybe can't emphasize enough how community and creates a connection, and these students began to not feel like they were alone on an island by themselves, and it fostered communication and relationships between the adults and the students, and it gave us really strong talking points in wraparound services with mental health counseling, with our school counselors, with just in staff meetings, being able to talk intelligently, not just about the numbers and those data that we all get on students all the time, but who the student was as a person and why they might be thinking this way, and how we might be able to utilize their passions and emotions and take those things and shape them in such a way that we could impact them positively.
Boy, you said some things there, Corey, that were pretty interesting, that most of the SEL, you never hear things going on like that. Anyway, let me ask you this: in your program, did you see any major differences before you had this program and then after you had it?
So that's a whole discussion you and I could have, recording, not recording, or whatever. So were there major differences between with New Start Academy? Were there major differences within New Start Academy from the time that we did not have this program to the time that we implemented this program? And the answer is there were absolutely amazing transformations that occurred. Now, the very first 2 years of implementation, it was very difficult. There were hurdles, but we felt as if it were worth it. Now, keeping in mind, the foundation of New Start Academy was love unlocks learning. And so we were reaching hearts and changing minds, and we were utilizing love to positively change mindsets and students. So with that, because we knew that love was the answer, so to speak, we kept our nose to the grindstone to continue to try to to impact our students. But the type of student that graduated or transitioned from New Start Academy for the past 5 years versus those students in the previous years to having the HeartBridge program, feedback from counselors at the home school, at Wynn High School and Wynn Junior High School, feedback from administrators at those places and all that stuff. There was an evident transformation in a student's approach to not only their academic performance, but how they handled themselves in situations, behaviorally, socially, and decision-making, and just responsibility and all of those things. Before, it felt as if maybe those students were checking a box and meeting the goals on their student action plan, meeting that goal and going back and acting the same way that they always did, almost as if it was just a timeout or maybe even a punitive placement. But it was truly utilizing HeartBridge curriculum and this program. What we were rehabilitative. We were actually impacting decision making and who those students were personally. We would tell them all the time that we loved them. Each day they heard that they are loved, and many times they were heard they were loved the way that they are. They heard that, but we loved them way too much to leave them there. That we wanted them to grow, and that was modeled again by staff and by myself. And that growth continues today. It's an amazing, transformative guide for decision making, for and just how to impact and be a part of something larger than ourselves.